Okay, so today you're going to go over the reviews for the test that we're going to take on Tuesday. So let's start with review 1, and I'm grading this in your notebook. So remember, although you're taking this on the computer, I want to see the work in your notebook. So we're going to go all the way back to Unit 1 and go over real numbers. So to help you classify real numbers, think of the Texas example that I gave you, where all the groups fit inside the next. So for example, natural numbers are whole numbers are integers, integers are rational numbers, and rational numbers are real numbers. And although irrational numbers are also real numbers, we can say that rational numbers and irrational numbers have no elements in common. Okay, for question 3, it says set A represents rational numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename set A and I'm going to put rational numbers only to make it easier. You can also do this in your notebook. And then it says set B represents integers. So I'm going to write integers for the inner subgroup. And then the question says which diagram shows the numbers placed in the correct sets. So what do we know about integers? So quick review. Natural numbers are numbers that you can count with your fingers. And although natural numbers are also whole numbers, in the whole numbers, we only classify 0 as a whole number. And then integers are negative numbers, but that you can also count with your fingers. So we can already start looking at the answer choices, and we see that letter D, the integer is negative, but it's 6.8. We cannot count 6.8 with fingers, so we can say that's not the answer. And then letter B, 3.4, we can't count 3.4 with fingers, so that's not the answer. A and C, we can do 12, and we can do 2, right? We can count those numbers with our fingers, so those are a possibility. Now let's go over rational numbers. Rational numbers are fractions, percentages, and decimals, but not all decimals. The decimals have to follow the rat rule. So what does the rat rule mean? They have to repeat or they have to terminate. In letter C, 3.1 terminates, it stops. In letter A, the problem is that 3 is, although it is a rational number, it classifies as natural. Because remember, natural numbers can be counted with your fingers and 3 can be counted with fingers. I'm not going to go over all the questions, but I'm going to do most of them. So this is question 4. I mistakenly put number 3, but it's number 4. So number 4 is asking for you to switch that number into scientific notation. So the way that we do it is we first write the numbers that are not zeros, so 8 and 5. And then we know that our coefficient is going to be less than 10. So we have to make that 85 and 8.5. You can remember this by simply always putting the decimal after the first number. Now we have to see what the exponent is going to be. So we originally had the decimal on the left and we switched it after the 8. So I'm going to go and write it after the 8. And I'm going to count all the numbers between the two decimals. And when I count, I get 6 numbers. So that means that my exponent is 6. Now, is it a positive 6 or a negative 6? So remember the rule that if the number starts with 0, the standard number starts with 0, in scientific notation, that exponent is going to get a negative. So then the answer for this is 8.5 times 10 to the negative 6. You can try this example on your own and come back to check your work in the exemplar. Let's move on to number 6. We have a similar example, but now it's a big number. It doesn't start with 0, but we do it the same way. So we start writing the numbers that are not zeros, 7 and 3. We put our decimal after the first number. So I'm going to go place that decimal on my original number, my standard form number. Now remember that that number had an invisible decimal at the very end. So how many numbers are there between the decimals? We can see that there are 4 zeros and a 3, right? So that means that my answer is going to be 7.3 times 10 to the 5. Now, is that 5 going to be positive or negative? The standard number is a big number, so it's going to be positive. You can also think of it as the standard number does not start with 0, so the exponent in scientific notation is going to be positive. You can try number 7 on your own. Come back to check on the exemplar. The exemplar is in Schoology, Unit 2, Week 3, all the way in the bottom. Okay, let's try number 8. So for number 8, it says, which answer choice puts the rational numbers in order from least to greatest? So reminder, if you want to do this in your notebook, make sure that you make a table and convert all these numbers to decimal form. You can go do it on your own and then come back to the video. A reminder on how to put these mixed fractions in decimals is just putting the whole number, -7, and then put a space before you put the fraction. So -7 space 4/5. And then you can click on the fraction button so that it can give you an answer. And once you have an improper fraction, you have to put it in the next line so that it can give you the decimal. And do the same thing for all of them. And we get the numbers. I'm writing them here. You can copy them down or you can go do it yourself so that you get used to how to use decimals. Okay, so now that we have the numbers, I'm going to make sure that I get 2 decimals for all of them. Just because my first and last number have 2 decimals, having 2 decimals on all the numbers make it easier for us to put them in order. Right, so I know that my answer is going to start with either of the negatives because negative is always less than positive, right? Now in the negative, remember that the numbers are opposite. So although 7.8 looks bigger than 7.5, in the negative numbers, it's the opposite. So that would be actually less. If we want to put them from least to greatest, the first number is -7.8, followed by the next one, followed by the next negative number, -7.5. And now we can look at the positive numbers. We have 7.08 and 7.67. Since they all start with 7, we can just ignore it and look at 0.08 and 0.67. 8 is smaller than 67, right? So that one goes first, and last, 67. Another way that you can do this quicker is that you know that answers C and D are not possible answers because your negative numbers should go first. And if you notice in C and D, the first numbers are positive. So you can always just check the first 2 negative numbers, decide which one is less, and then you can do this question quicker. Okay, let's go to number 9. So in number 9, what I really want to go over is that this question is saying which list shows the runners in order by their completion times from fastest to slowest. So they're in a race, right? This is a swimming race. So I want to bring you back to the example that I gave you of running a mile, right? So let's say that I run a mile in 10 minutes and you run the mile in 5 minutes. Then who is faster? Am I faster or are you faster? And whenever you put this into real life examples, then you guys remember that fastest to slowest means least to greatest, right? the quicker you run, the faster you are. So that means less time. So this means least to greatest. Let's make that note. Let's make that note so that we don't make a mistake in the exam. And now that we know that we're putting the numbers from least to greatest, let's make our table in our notebook. So I'm putting all my numbers, and then I'm turning them into decimals. Now here I forgot to put the names of the swimmers, but in a little bit I am going to add them. Don't forget to put the names on your notebook, because remember, that helps you whenever you have to put them in order. So you can do this on your own and then come back to this video or to my exemplar to check your work. For it to be less confusing, I'm going to make all my numbers the same. So I see that I have 15.40 and 15.03. So for the first and last number, I'm going to add one more decimal, and that's a 0. Now, since they all have 15, I'm going to ignore 15 and I'm just going to look at the decimals. We have 30, 40, 3, and 90. And that's easier, right? Easier to put in order. So I know that the first one, the least, it's 3. So that's my first one. And then we have 30, 40, and 90. So 30 is next, 40 is next, and finally 90. Here I'm writing the names. Remember that you're taking this test on a computer. So if you write everything on your notebook, it's easier for you to label them and put them in order without making as many mistakes. So I know Ramon is the first one. He's the fastest. Then Daisy, then Casey, and then Juan. And I don't even have to finish the list because Ramon and Daisy are the only options, and that's letter D. You can do 10 on your own. Okay, let's do number 11. Now for 11, I want to remind you that it really helps you guys when you write this in words. So it's asking which values it makes the inequality true. So meaning what answers are going to be less than 3 square root of 2. And you guys, I need you to write which number or which answer is less than. So that inequality sign, put it in words because it's really helping you in the test. Now I'm going to change all my numbers into decimals so that I can compare them. You guys can do it on your own and come back to check your work. Okay, so now I'm going to start comparing them. The last one says 5.3 is less than 4.25. That's not true. And then the next one from the bottom up, it's 3.25 is less than 4. Yes. 4.25 is less than 4.24. No, 25 is bigger. And then 2 is less than 4. Yes. And then we don't even have to do the last one because it says to select 2 correct answers, and we already have the answers, right? But you can still check. You can do 12 on your own and come back to check your work in my exemplar in Schoology. All right, number 13. So let me explain the formula. A square pool has an area of 167 square feet. What is the measurement? What is the exact measurement of each side? So the side, we can call it length. And the formula for area of a square is base times height or length times width. But since all the sides are the same, we can basically say length times length, right? Or side times side. I'm going to do length times length because when I put an S, it confuses you guys. You guys think it's a 5. So I'm going to say length times length. So length times length, we can rewrite that as length square, right? Now, we don't want the area. We already have the area. So I want to find my length. That means I want to get L by itself. I want to get L by itself. So how do I get rid of the exponent? The opposite of a square is square root. And remember, whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So basically, to get rid of the exponent 2, you put a square root. And your formula is length equals the square root of area. Or you can always just remember the formula, guys. If you want to find the side length of a square, just do square root of area. So to find the exact measurement of the side of this square, of this pool, we're going to have to do square root of 167. And the square root of 167 is 12.923. 12.92 or 228. But it says to round to the nearest tenth. That's one decimal. So 12.9 or is it going to move up to 13? So the number next to the 9 is less than 5, so that's going to stay at 9. And my answer is 12.9. You can try the last question on your own and come back to check. And that's it for the first review. There is a second review. It is a little bit more difficult. You can try on your own. The exemplar is in Schoology. Again, Unit 2, Week 3, all the way in the bottom. And you can try these problems on your own, review 1, review 2, and come back to the exemplar to check your work. Make sure that you write these problems in your notebook, guys. Get used to working it out by hand.